does feel like Go Girl, Give Us Nothing, except I really enjoy the Nothing. About hot, pretentious people having to kill each other. I think that's a genre that we need to see more of, you know? Hello, my name is Leonie. Thanks for hanging out with me again today. If you're new here, welcome. Today we are ranking every single TikTok book I have ever read. And I thought it would be interesting to go through the books from least popular on TikTok to most popular on TikTok based on how many views the book has gotten on the app. So I'm actually super easily influenced. Like if someone says a book has a good villain or there's an enemies to lovers romance, I'm gonna read it. I think if you only watch my most popular videos, I may seem a little negative about TikTok, but that's why I want to make this video, because there's also a lot of books that I do actually really enjoy that I got from TikTok. Here are the tiers. At the top we have I will unironically watch edits of these characters, because if I unironically watch an edit, you know I'm in very, very deep. I have found my people. Every time I see this book being recommended by someone on TikTok, I'm like, yes, I'm on the right side. The algorithm has brought me to you. Low-key good. In the middle, we have mid, because it's mid. I have a tier specifically for books where I feel like I probably shouldn't have read it in the first place. At the bottom, we have The Raccoons Would Love It, because it's trash. And then all the way at the bottom, we have the books for which I genuinely believe that ChatGPT could write something better. What I think is a very cool thing about TikTok is that it is introducing non-native English speakers like me to a lot of English books, and it's encouraging people to read books that are not in their original language. And I think it's very cool when people try to learn languages that isn't just their mother tongue. So that's why I am super excited to announce that this video is actually sponsored by Lingoda. Lingoda is an online language school where you can learn German, Spanish, French, English, and business English. I'm learning Spanish, and I want to tell you a very wholesome story about one of the classes that I had recently. So our teacher was a very nice lady, and she asked everyone in the class why they're learning Spanish. So I answered with La familia de mi pareja es de Peru. See, I can speak a bit of Spanish now. And then she got very happy because apparently she's originally also from Peru. And then she recommended her favorite Peruvian dishes to me, and it really was the highlight of my day. I think it's a great example of how amazing it is to learn a language from native speakers, and Lingoda offers that. What's so convenient about Lingoda is that you can take your classes anytime, anywhere. So let me show you a little bit of my routine. I'm a very chaotic person, and my schedule looks different every single week. So I personally tend to plan my classes a few days ahead of time. I mean, there's classes available almost every single moment of every day, so you can really plan your classes in a way that works for you. And sometimes I have time in the morning, sometimes I have time in the evening. So for example, here I can choose a class, and then you can see your teacher and also the 3 or 4 other students that are going to be joining that class. I'm very much a prepper, so I always also make sure that I have about 30 minutes of time, which is really way more than you need, before the class to go over the lesson materials and familiarize myself with everything. I really like the group classes and being with other people that are also learning, but if you want, Lingoda also offers private one-on-one classes. I highly recommend giving a try to Lingoda's 7-day free trial, where you can get 3 classes for free. And then after that, you can get 30% off your first payment with my code, thebookleo3, and the link for that will also be in the description, so you can check it out. Happy learning! So down here, the books are in a random order, but we're gonna go through them from least popular to most popular. So the least popular TikTok book that I've read, with only, how many? 7.3 million views on the hashtag, is The House in the Cerulean Sea. This is a cozy fantasy that will make you root for the Antichrist. And I realize as I'm saying that, it kind of makes it sound, this could also be an insult. Like, I don't mean as it makes me root for the Antichrist because the book was so bad that I wish the world would end. I mean, this is a super quirky fantasy where there's a lot of magical children, and one of these magical children is the literal Antichrist. And then there's a kind of an old, not an old man, he's like middle-aged, he's like 40, who is very much a fan of the rules and the regulations, and he has to take care of his children, and it's super wholesome. This book was low-key just really good. Place your bets on which book is going to be the most popular one. Then also coming in at 7.3 million views on the hashtag, we have the hashtag A Certain Hunger. This is the book that started my accidental streak of enjoying cannibal fiction. I swear there was a little trend at some point where a lot of fiction came out, movies also, that were about cannibalism. And this one was, again, low-key very good. It's one of those books that got recommended a lot during the unhinged women female rage era. And since this is about a woman who is going to kill all her exes and then eat them, you know, really fits the bill. Then coming in at 10 million views, we have the hashtag Gothicana. Well, if you see my video about this book, you know what I think of this. I feel like if you were to feed ChatGPT My Immortal, you know, like the really, really weird and bad Harry Potter fanfiction, you would get Gothicana. But the thing is, the elusive author of My Immortal could definitely write Gothicana, but the author of Gothicana could not write the masterpiece that is My Immortal. Not just a problematic romance, also just poorly written, not well researched, a lot of spelling mistakes even, just not good in any way. I can't think of anything. Then with 11 million views on the hashtag, we have Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I thought this one was more popular actually. Beautiful World, Where Are You, I think is Sally Rooney's least popular novel because some people think it's boring, and I kind of get it, you know, this book does feel like go girl, give us nothing, except I really enjoy the nothing. I mean, Sally Rooney could publish a book that's just empty pages and I would still be like, oh my god, this really says something about capitalism. If I see anyone recommending this book, I know I love them, they are my person. Then at 12 million views, we have Legends and Lattes. Is my dislike for this book to blame on the fact that I don't like coffee? No, it's not. You know, I am a character-driven reader. I want to read about characters that are more than just meets the eye when you meet them. And this book just really didn't have that. What I thought would be a macchiato turned out to just be a lungo, unfortunately. So we'll just put it in mid for now. And then at 17 million views, we have my first mistake pre-order. It's The Shadows Between Us. But this was my first experience with being like disappointed in book talk, because I read this when it came out, truly hated it because it's like an enemies to lovers villain romance that really tries to be edgy and dark but completely fails in every aspect. And I thought this book's not really gonna get very popular, right? And then it blew up on TikTok, and on TikTok people love it. And I was like, what's going on? Then at 28 million views, we have the Kiss Quotient. This is actually one of the very first adult romance books I'd ever read. In fact, it's the second adult romance books I ever read. And at the time, I really didn't like it. But to be honest, now that I've read more adult romances, I realized that it wasn't that bad. Again, didn't really focus as much on the characters as I wanted to. And I just didn't ship the main couple. Like, they had sex too often. The tension was gone for me, I'm sorry. It was mid, you know, but better than Legends and Lattes. There's a big jump now, because next up on the list has 62 million views on the hashtag. And that is People We Meet on Vacation, which again, I thought was more popular, but it is the least popular one out of the Emily Henry books, which I totally agree with, because this one was by far my least favorite one. Almost made me believe in the friends to lovers trope, because Emily Henry does know how to write, but in the end, I just didn't ship it. I just didn't feel the tension. Then at 64 million views, we have The Atlas 6, the fantasy dark academia book that took over TikTok, and I read it because of TikTok. You know, I just always really enjoy stories that are about hot, pretentious people having to kill each other. I think that's a genre that we need to see more of, you know? I have an entire video about this. Initially, I was a little disappointed in it because honestly, it kind of doesn't really go anywhere. It takes place in the Library of Alexandria, but you don't get to see it at all. You know, it was very enjoyable, very tense, good character work, so, you know, low-key good. Also, at 64 million views, we have My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I think is like the crown jewel on top of all of those unhinged women books, which I read and was... Actually, this book made me pretty emotional, even though it's really weird. Then at 68 million views, I decided not to take the hashtag of the book itself, but the hashtag of the author, because the author, Siggy Shade, has kind of been getting a reputation on TikTok because she writes these like very bizarre monster smuts. That just people keep getting them recommended on their For You page, and I decided to read Tentacle Entanglement for fun, and I ended up getting ensnared into very graphic erotica full of kinks that I personally just don't really want to read about. I got entangled in it, if you will, tangled up. I do want to say justice to all you monster out there. I do get it, you know, I still really want to watch that anime, the Megas Bride, because it just looks, I get it, you know, but this, no. It just, I shouldn't have read this. It was just not written for me. But I don't want to judge anyone who does like to read it. There's a reason I've never gotten an IUD. It's because I'm very afraid of the pain of them going through your cervix. But in this book, things are going through her cervix, and it's not an IUD. I have a video about it if you want to know more. Before we move on to our first 100 million views book, I have two books that I couldn't place in the ranking because of the titles of the book. Let me explain. So, for example, we have here Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and obviously the hashtag Book Lovers has like billions of views, but I guess you can see why, because Book Lovers is also just how people who talk about books tag their video. So I don't really have an accurate representation of how popular this is. This is, however, my absolute favorite Emily Henry book. I just love romances between two people that cannot talk about their emotions. It's why I love Book Lovers, and it's why I ship Kazan and Ish. Second one is These Violent Delights by Micah Nemerever. There's another book by Chloe Gong, which is way more popular, so if you search the hashtag These Violent Delights, you just get the book by Chloe Gong. I am still counting this as a TikTok book, even though no one's talking about it, because I actually got this book recommended to me because of TikTok. It is one of the first books that I read truly and solely because I saw it only on TikTok. Amazing. Beautifully written, very edgy and pretentious in a way that makes sense and doesn't feel pretentious. Okay, so our first book that got 100 million views on TikTok is, where is it? Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This book feels like an otome game. You know, like those games where you can date like multiple people, because it's about a girl in Sicily that has to deal with like the personifications of every of the 7 deadly sins, and of course she ends up in a romance with Wrath, and it's very enemies to lovers, or at least really tries to be. Just another example of a book that really tries to be dark, doesn't really succeed at it. I hated this. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being a little harsh in this video. This video is kind of the spiritual sequel to my guide to TikTok books video, because in that video I kind of try to be pretty impartial and just give an overview of books on TikTok and kind of tell you about why some people like them, why some people don't like them. But of course you can never be truly objective. So that's why this video is here. It's just my unfiltered, super subjective opinions. You should never just not read a book because I say it's bad, okay? Don't listen to me. I'm just giving my super biased opinion. And then at 107 million views, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I'll be honest, I've kind of forgotten about this book, which is very poignant since it's about a girl who is always forgotten immediately by everyone. But I did enjoy it, but it didn't really stick with me. And I think that's because I found the main character to be way more boring than the side characters. But it was low-key good. It was low-key good. Is it Yeah, it was better than the Atlas 6. At 128 million views, we have the most popular Emily Henry book, and also her first one, Beach Read. While reading this book, I laughed, I cried, and then I cringed. It was a big roller coaster of emotions, which is also clearly what the characters are going through during her books. I don't know where to place it, because on one point this was just too over the top sad for my personal likings, but also I have never experienced being so giddy and happy while reading a book. So we're gonna put it at the top of mid for now. And then we have, at 141 million views, We Were Liars. I read this book when I was 17 years old. This book shocked my little 17-year-old's mind. I'd never heard of the concept of an unreliable narrator, so this book blew away all the brain cells that I had at that point. I don't think they fully grew back ever. So I'm sure if I read it again, it wouldn't be anything special. But at the time, I thought this was really great. Then at 180 million views, we have the hashtag I'm glad my mom died from the book by Jeanette McCurdy. I'm going to hope that the hashtag only ever refers to the book. I feel like everyone who reads this loves this, so it's not really I found my people, it's just like we all collectively agree that this was a fantastic memoir. Then at 193 million views, we have Red, White, and Royal Blue. You know, I sometimes say that I can be a little allergic to things that are a little over the top, happy and cute. For some reason, that did not apply when I read this kind of ridiculous, over the top, happy and cute book. It's about a romance between like the Prince of England and then the first son of the United States, which is really funny right now because when you think of it, it's kind of like a fan fiction of Hunter Biden and Prince Harry. At 204 million views, we have It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This book kind of introduced me to that side of romance book that is obsessed with calling everything male and female and feminine and masculine. One of my biggest red flags for people is when they refer to women as females and men as males. I'm usually not a fan of sunshine grumpy romances like this one, but because it's so over the top in this book, like an extreme bimbo main character and then this like gruffy, stuffy alpha man as the grumpy character, it was so over the top that I kind of enjoyed it. We're gonna put it at mid. Then, jumping up to 263 million views, we have The Spanish Love Deception. The fact that this book is so popular and widely loved must be the real deception, because when I read this, I genuinely couldn't believe that it was actually true that this was so popular. I understand why people really love this, but this was just too... They don't have a good relationship, guys. They don't communicate. Then at 298 million views, we have Babel. Although I'm not entirely sure if the hashtag Babel might also be used to things that are, you know, about Babel. But all of the top videos really were about the book. You know, after the hype of dark academia, there was just like a sea of books being published in the dark academia genre that actually just kind of romanticized the whole academic elitism thing. So I'm very grateful for Babel, the very newly released dark academia novel, that just does a perfect job, a fantastic job of critiquing and calling to question so many problems within academia. And for that, I'm grateful. This was pretty good. And the book that so perfectly follows Babel with only a little more views at 306 million, we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I don't think I've ever annotated a book as much as I've annotated this one. I've seen a lot of edits of The Secret History, but I don't unironically watch them. I'm not super into it. I just wanted to mention it because I love it when an online community just collectively agrees on which authors should play which characters, and that's what's going on with the Secret History fandom. And I really like that. Love it when people recommend it. Then we just immediately jump 100 million views. At 460 million views, we have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I read before it was cool on TikTok. What can I say about Taylor Jenkins Reid other than she deserves to be one of the top TikTok authors? And I'm not even a plot reader, but I love her plots. We are again jumping 100 million views. We're now at like 500 million views with 549 million views on the hashtag The Love Hypothesis. The fact that this is thinly veiled Reylo fanfiction doesn't actually bother me that much. I've read Reylo fanfiction, okay? I don't mind that all of her books are basically just Reylo fanfiction. What I do mind, it is yet another fake dating Sunshine Grumpy romance. Of course it is. Another one where the female character has to be the sunshine one. And I also really like fake dating romances, but this one, there has to be a kind of positive tension during the fake dating moments, not secondhand embarrassment. And secondhand embarrassment is what I felt so often while reading this book. I wouldn't call it trash, but I definitely didn't enjoy it. Just mid. Then at 662 million views, we actually have Daisy Jones and the Six. And I'm pretty sure that this book has gotten a big uptick in views since the show came out, which I love, by the way. That show, oh my god. When I was watching that show, it reminded me again of how good of a storyteller Taylor Jenkins Reid is. Very similar to 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think I enjoyed it slightly more. Maybe it's just because I'm currently watching the TV show. Then at 813 million views, we have the hashtag Ugly Love. Ugly Love is the only Colleen Hoover book I've ever read, and also the reason why I've never read any of her other books. If you're curious, It Ends With Us is her most popular book, and it has 2.2 billion views. Yeah, it's been a while since I read Ugly Love, so I wish I could tell you more about why I didn't like it. I just remember that I truly didn't like it and felt like the romance was very unhealthy, but yet romanticized. Tried to really be deep and poetic, but it just didn't work for me. And then at 1.3 billion views, we have Throne of Glass. I really do not like this book. I really don't. Sorry. I think the reason I dislike this book so much is because I've been in a lot of fandoms, and I've read a lot of those like self-insert own character fanfictions, and this book just reminds me too much of that. Like, there are too many similarities between Throne of Glass and a self-insert fanfiction. I understand why it does so well and why it's so popular, but that is the reason that I just don't like it. So Throne of Glass had 1.3 billion views. The next book, The Cruel Prince, actually had 1.1 billion views, but then there are 300 million more views on the hashtag Cruel Prince without the, making it slightly more popular than Throne of Glass, which I'm gonna count as a personal win because I freaking love The Cruel Prince. I want this to be adapted into a movie so bad, just so that I can watch endless edits. I am genuinely begging to all that is holy that we will get a Cruel Prince adaptation directed by Guillermo del Toro. That would be my dream. If that ever happens, I will die happily. The thing about The Cruel Prince is actually that the TikTok hype around it kept me from reading the book for so long because I was so brain rotted with the idea that because it's a TikTok recommendation, I'm probably not gonna love it. And see, I was stupid to think that. And I'm really glad that I finally read it because I love it. As you can see down here, we have the 3 books that are gonna be battling for the top 3 most popular books on TikTok based on how many views their hashtags have gotten. What do you think it's gonna be? Place your bets in the comments. So coming in at number 3, the bronze medal, we have 1.5 billion views on the hashtag 6 of Crows. I am currently in the middle of watching the Shadow and Bone show, which also includes characters from Six of Crows. So I am just like deep back into my obsession with this book. And now that there's a TV show, oh, there's so many great edits. Oh, there's so many great edits. I love unironically watching that. Remember that number 3, Six of Crows, has 1.5 billion views. Number 2 has 5.5 billion views. And number 1 has 6.9 billion views. So the book with the most views on its hashtag with 6.9 billion views is actually Normal People by Sally Rooney. Yes, I did not expect this. With 6.9 billion views, it has more views than It Ends With Us, Verity, Ugly Love, Reminders of Him, November 9, and It Starts With Us, all books by Colleen Hoover, combined. Normal People by Sally Rooney is single-handedly getting more views than all of Colleen Hoover's most popular books combined. I feel like that, to me personally, and my subjective taste, that is a sign that TikTok knows how to talk about good books. This is 100% due to the fact that there's a TV show. Like, the BBC TV show Sally Rooney is madly popular. If you go to the hashtag Normal People, all you see is just edits of the TV show. Which I do unironically watch. But I wouldn't say that I love this book as much as I love these 3. Oh yeah, because I actually love Beautiful World, Where Are You more? I know, unpopular opinion. I'm gonna put it here. And then number 2, I actually thought this was gonna be number 1, but number 2 is A Court of Thorns and Roses. Beauty and the Beast retellings should not have handsome beasts. I'm just not really a fan of the way that Sarah J. Maas writes her fae. She does the same thing in Throat of Glass, where they're all very like gorgeous, beautiful, extremely powerful, and I just prefer to read about characters that are worse. That are just worse. I do think I sometimes forget that I definitely had a kind of enjoyable time while reading this, so I'll put it here. Okay. As you can see, there are a lot of books that I read because of TikTok that I very, very much enjoyed. If you want to see more of me talking about books, make sure you subscribe. And I will welcome you to this little channel. Welcome. I tried to go a little bit more into why I like certain books or why not, or why I would recommend them or not recommend them in other videos, but this was just me quickly giving you an overview of what I actually think of all those TikTok books that I talk about so often. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon in another video next week. Goodbye.